Hi. Hello. Oh, this is very exciting. Okay. So, hi everybody. This is Gail. It is a quiet Saturday at the beginning of the summer, or it certainly feels like summer in my part of the world anyway. And I am going live. Hooray. We will see. Facebook at least has not been awesome about supporting anything to do with live video anymore, so I don't know if it's going to work there. I am also running on YouTube, and yeah, I can see a few eyeballs on both platforms. This time around, I think I have my setup better. I know last time I was sort of sideways for half of you, but this time I think I've got it figured out. As you may or may not have noticed, I am in a different location than normal, and that's part of me figuring it out. I'm using a kind of convertible up-down table to have both stand and my computer so I can be on both platforms at once. But there seem to be a few of you watching. Hey, Julia. Hi, River. Oh my God. Yay. So, hey, TK. Oh, fantastic. So both are working. This is awesome. I'm very excited about that. I think it's probably, I've been on 2 lives already, not me, other people's, and attendance has been pretty low. I think a lot of people have a lot of stuff going on today, so I don't expect this to be very crowded, but that's cool. Consider it private one-on-one time to pick my brain. Anyway, yeah, I didn't have anything like super planned because things are pretty quiet in my life as well at the moment. But as TK says, please do put a question mark at the beginning of your question. It just makes it easier to see, and that way I can decide, I can figure out who actually has a question and who just wants to chat. If you just want to chat, that's good too, because I would love that. I had a really lovely evening last evening, a spontaneous gathering of ladies at my place. So it's nice to be back after the chaos of my last year or so. It's nice to be back, like the place where people come to hang out. That's kind of always been my role amongst, I think, pretty much my whole life. My house, my parents made my house a real nice, safe place for all my friends when I was really little, and it continued on. And I've always felt it's sort of my not duty, but pleasure to host people. So it was really nice to have a bunch of people over last night. We ate Korean soft tofu stew. And can I just say, I have a friend who makes the greatest kimchi known to mankind. She makes it with wild onions from her backyard, and it is delicious and also the smelliest thing in the world. I am reminded of a Rick Steves quote who said, "It smells like the feet of angels." And let me tell you, this kimchi is like the 7th level of hell in scent and the like supreme delight of heaven in taste. So yeah. Yes, so tell me what you're eating and what you're drinking. I am drinking green tea, this iced, because it's a little warm today. And I like, weirdly, I prefer green tea on ice rather than black tea. I like my black tea hot with milk, and I like my green tea on ice. And this one has a little passion fruit fruitiness to it, which tempers the green tea for me. I'm not a huge green tea fan. I know I probably haven't had the right green tea, but it's supposed to be very good for you, and it's a little lower caffeine in the afternoon. So I'm trying, I'm experimenting, and I tell you, putting it on ice makes it a lot easier for me to drink. Hello, hello. So we have some action happening on Facebook. They're chatting away, and there's a few people on YouTube. So it looks like we're up and running. So I brought like snacks for show and tell, and I have a teacup for show and tell, like the old days when we were in my office. You guys remember those days? So I can't remember what like teacups I've shown you before, but also, you know, there's always new people. It's new times. It's old teacups though. So I brought this teacup set to show today, which is one of my favorites. There it is. This is sort of tilted so you can see. So this is a demi-tasse teacup, which means they're these tiny teacups that were originally designed for hot chocolate and coffee when those things were incredibly expensive. So of course I don't know how to say the actual French word, but I always learned to call it demi-tasse teacup. And so this one is one of the ones that has the little feet. And of course, it's got a metallic interior, so I don't think you could or should actually drink anything out of this. Vintage metallics or lusters, probably should avoid everybody actually using such things. So anyway, I just think it's so cute because of the little feet, and there are 3 feet. It should always be 3 feet. It should never be 4 feet. 3 is better. It's more stable. Um, and this one has a uh, tiny little saucer that goes with it, and it has a raised texture for some of the decoration, which I also think is very cool. And then it also had a little cookie saucer that came with it. So it has its 2 little saucers, which I think is really sweet. So I call this one the Lord Akeldama teacup because it has figures of courters, Lord Akeldama and his shepherdesses all painted all over his entranceway and everything. So it's one of my several Lord Akeldama teacups, so I'll put it that way. But I am not actually drinking my tea out of it, as you may have noticed. I am in fact simply drinking green tea. Oh my gosh, we have someone tuning in from Switzerland, and people are talking about what they are eating and drinking at the moment, which is very cute because obviously some people are at different times in different parts of the world. So someone's having turkey and whiskey, which, that sounds great to me. Uh, TK is sharing hilarious stories of Casper, the most wonderful cat ever, who I have never met, but I am deeply in love with, and I will someday meet Casper, the friendly idiot. Just seems, yeah. It looks like everybody can see me okay. The live has gone to the group, and hi, Dick. The mods are in on the Facebook chat, so all is well. We don't have a moderator on YouTube, but we also don't have a lot of people on YouTube, so I think we'll be okay. So yes, if anybody has any questions, we can get started with questions, or I can keep nattering about exciting things in my life that are not green. Oh, I should say, being a California girl, that this is a corn straw. This is a biodegradable, not plastic straw. So I'm being a good girl. I have found a straw that will work. I like a straw. I know. It's because I wear lipstick, and it's just easier with a straw. So I also don't like it when like ice clicks on your teeth or whatever. It makes me uncomfortable. River says that they enjoy listening to the nattering. Good. I can natter. Yeah. So continuing on with the nattering, I'm going to share some of my favorite current snacks. They all happen to be Trader Joe's snacks, and that is, I don't know how to put this. I don't necessarily think, like, I don't have like a ton of loyalty to any supermarkets or anything, but Trader Joe's is simply the most convenient supermarket for me where I live. So I buy a lot of stuff at Trader Joe's, and they are pretty good on the snacks. Um, so I will share my snacks, and then I will answer the question that we have. This is my new favorite. It's a brand new Trader Joe's thing. And sorry, I can't flip it on Facebook, but these are the dark chocolate thins from Trader Joe's, and they're individually wrapped, which is great for travel, but not awesome for the environment. But anyway, they're like super dark chocolate and super bitter, and they're tiny and thin, and they're like delicious with almond butter or peanut butter or whatever. And I don't know, I'm trying to figure out ways to satisfy my chocolate craving without like eating a ton of chocolate, like milk chocolate or whatever. And yeah, these are, again, very grown up chocolate, very bitter, but I kind of like it. And it's working, I think. At least I hope it's working to satisfy my chocolate craving. I haven't had them in the house and gone through like a bad session of chocolate craving recently, so we'll see. These are the other thing that I love, which is the dried, specifically the atulfo mangoes, or the skinny yellow mangoes. These are nice and tart. I find a lot of dried fruit, it either has added sugar, which I'm not wild about, or which I just don't think fruit needs added sugar. It's fruit. It's already sweet enough. But these are actually, I like a sour mango, and these are like pretty sour. So highly recommend. Specifically these ones. Trader Joe's has a lot of dried mango, but these are the ones I like the best. I eat these a lot. Also, I've used them pretty successfully to make like a evening tisane. So you like can tear them up and stick them in hot water with cinnamon stick or some almond or something else some herb that you like, and you can sort of make your own like fruity evening beverage that doesn't have any caffeine in it. Speaking of, I do the same thing with these guys. These do have added sugar. These are the dried mandarins, but oh my God, they're like the best sour gummy candy ever invented by mankind. I'm a big like sour girl. I like sweet sour candies. I've always been a bit more than chocolate, quite frankly. And my goodness, these guys are like, they're great. And I pretend that they're not bad for me because they are really just dried fruit, but goodness, are they good. All right. Yeah, so now let's get on to some of the questions. I apologize for the like hand gesturing. I'll do my best here. Oh my God, everyone's here today. This is so nice. It's like we got the old guard tuning in today. So the first question is, did I end up reading those old journals? You know what? I posted recently that I went through all of my dad's stuff, and now I'm going through all of the stuff that either my dad had or my mother had and has decided to give to me recently, because she's in that phase. I think all of our parents get to that phase where they're like, I kept your childhood art from when you were 6 to 10 years old. Here, I know you've always wanted that. And I'm like, this is the last thing I have in fact ever wanted. So I found these old journals that I wrote in college, and I was like, do I read them or not? And I haven't read them yet, and I honestly don't know if I will. They're very like navel gazy relationship, whatever, like trauma. Like what was meaningful and dramatic and important to me in college just doesn't seem to matter very much anymore. So I don't know. But I did not throw them away, which I am wont to do. I'm a big thrower awayer of things. I don't like to keep stuff. So I tend to throw stuff away or give it away if someone else will take it. And for now, the journals are still staring at me, and I am working my way through other paperwork to make room for the journals. So those very few boxes that I allow myself to keep of memorabilia, the journals will fit in on top, but I have to get rid of other stuff first, which means processing it. So that's the situation with the journals. I still don't know. I don't know that I'm currently in a particularly nostalgic phase of my existence, I guess, is one way of putting it. So the journals are sitting and staring at me from the guest bedroom right now, which is also my office. TK asks, what's my favorite boba milk tea flavor and favorite pearls? Oh, this is a wonderful question. As TK has correctly sussed out, I, in fact, have drink my green tea on ice because I learned how to do that from boba tea places. So we have multiple places in my hometown that do boba, and I would like everybody else to put their boba orders in comments and stuff. Like boba's it's very serious business. So, and one of the places we have here in my hometown is a traditional Taiwanese boba tea place. Taiwan, the inventor of the boba tea, and which means you can get it with like cut fruit and fresh fruit. And they, in fact, do a green tea. Actually, no, it's a mountain oolong. It's a Taiwanese mountain oolong with fresh passion fruit and fresh pineapple. And then they do, and you can get Yakult added to it, which I also really love. So it's like all of these combinations of flavors I delight in. And this may surprise none of you. My favorite topping is actually no topping or boba whatsoever. It is the egg pudding. I love egg pudding in my boba tea because it's like, if it's done the way I like it, it's not too sweet, but it's just sweet enough to add a little bit of sugar. And I'm a 50 ice 0 sugar girly, which sometimes if you're as passion fruit motivated as I am, they give you very funny looks because passion fruit is extremely sour. It's one of the reasons it's my favorite fruit. And to get it with 0 sugar is really hard, but the Taiwanese place will do it with 0 sugar, and it just makes me so happy. It's like just the most refreshing thing in the universe. And I love an oolong. So yeah, if it's a place that's a little bit more like Korean or Japanese in terms of its boba point of view, then it's usually a fruited green tea that I'll get. Again, as 0 sugar. And I will often pick what's on the menu by whether I can get it a low sugar version or not. I used to like, back when I was drinking a lot more milk, I used to love what was called the Osaka version, which was a black tea with pudding and milk often, and then also boba and stuff like that. I do like to put like all the gelatinous things if I'm feeling fancy. So I'll get like grass jelly or black boba or whatever. So yeah, I love a drink that's full of stuff. A cold drink. I don't know about boba and like hot tea. That would be a little weird, I think. Oatmeal and vanilla ice cream for breakfast, says Seattle. Jesse, that sounds so good. Robin would like my thoughts on durian. All right, Robin. This is a big one, everybody. This is a big one. I don't know your thoughts on durian. I respect everybody's thoughts on durian. I understand that there are flavors that people taste differently in different parts of the world. I'm not offended if you like a thing I don't like, or if I like a thing that you don't like. I hope you won't be offended. But here's the thing. I like almost everything. I am a voracious eater. My tombstone is going to read, I only wanted to taste it. I literally will look at something and be like, is that edible? This is how I go through the world. I go through the world thinking that can be the new greatest thing. I just have to try it once. Also, it might kill me, but don't care. Which means I have, in fact, eaten all the things that you would expect. You know, like cuy or I've had horse meat, I've had bugs, I've eaten all the things. I'm not phased. There are 3 things I don't eat. And durian is the top of that list. I did try. I really did. So I've had a couple different kinds of durian. There are a lot of varietals. You know, there's over like 20 or 30, I think, possibly even more. I've had, I think, 3 different kinds now. That's what I do. I give something 3 tries on the theory that the first couple of times it's not been prepared well. I've had durian candy and durian chips. Both of those are fine. It's fresh durian. And to me, I get it. Like, I get the vanilla-ness, I get the creaminess, I get the, like, tropical perfumey, I get the notes of coconut and the pineapple. I also get rotten onions and gasoline. And it repeats on me. So I get rotten onions and gasoline for the next 24 hours while I burp. And I don't ever want to do that again. So I'm afraid durian is on my no-fly list. No more durian. Although, like I said, I'm happy to have it sort of cooked, or when other people have done something to it. I think it works out okay. My other 2, before you ask, that I won't eat are a sausage from, I don't know where it's from originally in France. It's called andouillette sausage, not andouille. And it is pig colon sausage, and that's what it tastes like. And I don't like that. Of the things that I will name on this very short list, it's the one that lives in infamy as the thing I actually raised the napkin to pat my lips and spat out into that napkin. No way. That one is also the only thing I've only given 1 chance to. I'm never gonna try that again. It was, yeah. And then the final thing is uni, specifically uni. So that is a sea urchin in its raw form. I like fish. I like all fish. I don't have a texture issue with anything. I'll eat oysters, all those sorts of things. Uni, I just don't like it. And I've had it at very high-end sushi places. And is there something about the way it sticks to your mouth or something? I just don't. I've had it cooked and it's delicious. So I will eat sea urchin, no problemo. I've had it in a savory custard form and in a like flash cooked, sauteed, all different ways, and it's delicious. It's just raw that I don't like it. So there it is. Those are my 3, and you asked the durian questions. So that's how you got such a long app. Those are my thoughts on durian. I do think that if you are open to it, and if you I mean, it's the king of fruit. It is some people's favorite fruit in the world. So don't let my experience color it. I think you should try it if you're game, because I have a very good friend who also tried it when I did the last time and loved it. So, yeah. Brian asks, there are so many things in the world that fantasy reading provides an escape from, and also a contrast. Let's see if I can see more. I can see more. Oh, crikey. Yeah, if you ask too long of a question, it's not going to show it to me. I can only see about 3 lines worth of a question. So, Brian, you're going to have to re-ask your question. Um, Holy guacamole. What beauty. Oh, yeah. Lavender and Thai milk tea, no pearls. Interesting. We have some interesting boba orders going on here. I've never had lavender with Thai tea together. I don't know. I'm glad we have other passion fruit lovers tuning in. Love it so much. In Peru, where I excavated ages ago, it is the topping for cheesecake. So they just put fresh passion fruit in the same way that, like New York, the strawberry sauce is put on cheesecake. In the highlands of Peru, where cheesecake's really, really common because it's so high altitude that a lot of things don't rise properly in baking. So cheesecake's super popular there because it's very easy to bake at high altitude. And yeah, they put fresh passion fruit there, and that was where I really started loving passion fruit in particular. Okay, so TK asks if the SAS squad, I have, yes, there's DRATSIE up there, did a pride parade. What would their outfits be like? I would love it if they were all like in animal form in a pride parade. So they'd be like wearing like be all dolled up, but as werewolves. I think that would be really hilarious to me. Anyway, I'm easily amused. Would they have a float though? I don't know. Can you imagine trying to organize the pack to like build a float or something? Honestly, I think they're just more likely to host the big party afterwards. You know, they're like, you know, let the humans have their fun, and then everybody come over and we'll feed you some venison later. Feels like that would be their definitely that's Alex's attitude anyway. Um, Heather wants to know how I can be convinced to go to Scotland. You don't have to convince me. I was in Edinburgh. I've been to Scotland 3 or 4 times now. Edinburgh is just lovely. I love it there. Highly recommend everybody, if you have a chance to go to Edinburgh, to go to Edinburgh. It's a great, great, just town, city. I guess it's a city. It feels like a town. I stayed in a neighborhood. Public transport was really easy to figure out. I just walked around it. I found the most, speaking of food, I personally, it was me, I did it, found the most amazing Greek bakery. Let me tell you, Greek desserts. I love all desserts. I never ran out of pastry. I didn't want to stuff in my face, but the Greek desserts, especially the custard tangential ones, like the galactoboulico and bugaccia, and this place had authentic Greek desserts, and I was like, wow, it's Edinburgh and I am eating Greek desserts and I couldn't be happier ever. So yeah, 10 out of 10, recommend that city. Also thrifting, very good there. Good vintage fashion game in Edinburgh. I found both some awesome old Baedeker's books to write from, and also some pretty cute outfits. So Heather, you don't really have to convince me to come to Scotland. It's mostly like, when am I next going to make it there? I may be trying to get to, it is in Scotland. In fact, it's not near, but it is the closest I'll be getting to Nottingham, hopefully next year. That's a plan. Fingers crossed. We will see. My mother is becoming ancient, and she has requested that we go home for her, which in the UK is the south of, it's London. But home in the UK for me is Nottingham. So we will hopefully I will be taking her on the grand tour of the UK, or at least England, bits of the UK. How does one approach cutting durian? Knife, cleaver, sword? It's not as difficult as jackfruit durian. I think it's relatively easy. Usually in a lot of the Asian countries I've been in, you can buy it already pre-cut and then packaged up, which I think is the way to do it, because a whole durian is often a lot of durian. And that way you can try it without fully committed. I once bought an entire jackfruit and it was wild. There is a blog post about this. You can Google Gail Carriger jackfruit, where I report on what that experience was like. I mentioned jackfruit because it's also a big spiny thing, but it's not related to durian. It's a completely different thing. But jackfruit has natural latex in it. There were knives destroyed. The kitchen was never the same, quite frankly, after the jackfruit experience. I think durian will smell things up, but apart from that, it's not as difficult to handle. You sort of cut through the rind and then you crack it open so you get the pods. Mm, a little bit like, I don't know, like an extremely large pomegranate. You want to like crack it like that so that you don't cut any of the inner fruits. DK asks, "What's my Korean barbecue order?" Oh, this is fun. It seems to be food chat with Gail. I love this. Who cares about writing? What's my Korean? Okay, again, you guys have to tell me your bubble tea order. Now we have to talk about Korean barbecue. I This is a terrible thing to admit to, and of course, I'm not going to pronounce it properly because I pronounce nothing properly, including English words. Um, Bulgogi. I don't like bulgogi. I'm not a big beef eater, and it's too sweet for me most of the time. In fact, almost every barbecue sauce I've ever encountered has been too sweet for me. This seems to be a theme. I swear I love sweet things, just I guess I have feelings about the level of sweetness. But anyway, yeah, so that I don't. So I actually like the seafood end of Korean barbecue, and that's often what I'll go for if I have to pick. I'll pick seafood. But I'm not really a Korean barbecue. I like the bowls and I like the stews more for in the oeuvre of Korean cuisine that you order when you eat out. So yeah, that's that. That was a relatively simple. How about Brussels sprouts? I don't like Brussels sprouts. I don't know if that was a teaser, but I will eat them. And so I'm not. They aren't on the very few foods that Gail doesn't eat. I will eat Brussels sprouts. It's just people are always like, oh, you just have to roast them with bacon and and I was like, yeah, that tastes good to some people, but it still tastes like a nasty fetal cabbage farts to me. That's what it tastes like to me. But however, raw and pickled and also like flash cooked in like a salad with a nice lemony sauce, that kind of balances out the fetal cabbage fartness of a Brussels sprout, and I don't mind it as much. But I feel like roasting it, like for a roast up. So my mother, who's quite British, would have roasted Brussels sprouts at like Thanksgiving, which is weird. I always say my mother does Thanksgiving as only an expatriate Brit could do Thanksgiving. And she's wild feelings on Thanksgiving, and we eat it outside. There's barbecuing involved. My stepdad is Jamaican, so we have like jerked chicken appetizer. We jerked the turkey once a year. There's a whole thing. Anyway, Brussels sprouts are occasionally would I have nothing to do with it involved at Thanksgiving. But I, as a child, would steal and hide them so that they didn't get cooked because I don't like the way they smell getting cooked. Um, yeah, so that's Brussels sprouts. Oh, start looking for a question. Okay, so Brian. Oh, Brian wants to know. Oh, we're going to talk about writing. How exciting, everybody! um, Brian wants to know if it's a conscious choice to create more happy endings, kindness and acceptance. And I say yes. Some of you may have noticed that over the last few years, some of my stuff has gotten a little bit darker. Um, like How to Marry. I think it probably started with How to Marry a Werewolf over there. This one. Which is just a little bit darker, just because the characters are quite broken in that book by the world. And I wanted to do like broken characters getting healed by the world. I like that story arc. So broken by the world and then healed by found family. That's kind of one of my things, right? And Ambush Door was relatively dark too. I made you all cry, or at least I made some of you cry with that one. But you are right. It is a very conscious decision for me to always have happy endings and kindness and acceptance in my books. I feel like it's really important for somebody to write those narratives to try to get them into existence. I think the like true power of fiction, such as it is as an art form. I mean, you can watch me unpacking this in, the Tinkered Star Song books, right? That's where I was trying to deal with this idea that there's power in art. And for me, the power in the art that I can produce is to show a model of acceptance and happiness for people who are perhaps not granted that by the world as we currently live in it. So that's exactly why I write what I write. I just think it's really important to do. And also it's always what I wanted to read. I always wanted to read people like me and my friends and those who raised me as a child, getting to live forever and have happy endings. again, this is something I've kind of talked about on the floor, but I went through the AIDS epidemic as a as a little child, which was a lot of, or a number of like aunties and uncles and then hospital visits for me as a little kid. And I think I was kind of like, why don't they get to live happily ever after, right? I think I've been spending the last 40 years rewriting that, right? Trying to give happy endings to people who don't naturally get them. It's one of the reasons I like romance so much. All right, I'm scanning through for other questions. Yes, some thoughts on the challenges of whole jackfruit. Hot soup in the summer. This wasn't a question for me, but there's a question of how do we all feel about hot soup in the summer? I did just make hot soup yesterday, but I have to say, until today, it's been quite cold here, so it was inspired by the coldness. There was that theory about like hot chai in India and how it's drunk all summer long and stuff, that you're supposed to like bring your inner temperature up to the outer temperature of the world. And I don't know if that's a true theory or not, but you know what? Personally, I'll drink hot tea pretty most of the time. Um, Unless it's like so hot that I can't bear it. But Robin asks if I've seen Culinary Class Wars. It's on Netflix and it's a Korean cooking competition show. No, you are not the first person to suggest it to me. It sounds like something I would love more than anything. I remember watching the old Japanese kitchen challenge show, before it even came to the United States. The Great Eggplant Battle will live on in my mind forever. But I don't have Netflix anymore. I lost Netflix in the divorce, and so far I haven't felt like the absolute need to reboot, or in my case, get a new Netflix account. So no Netflix for me at the moment. We'll see. There a certain amount of stuff has to stack up on Netflix for me to be like, okay, time for Netflix. Or I'll just, go over to a friend's place and watch it there. Now I want cheesecake, says River, don't we all? Ontario someday. I haven't been. Now Canada, I haven't been to in a really long. Iron Chef, thank you, Robin. I haven't been to Ontario in a really long time. Yeah, I haven't been up to Canada in ages. I was planning to go this next trip up to Seattle. I was planning to go up to Vancouver, but that's not happening. So yeah. Oh, Mom, that's amazing. Wow. Someone else like me is like, Julia says darker chocolate works better as we get older. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I still taste the bitter in it, but I guess I kind of like bitter things. The older I get, the more bitter I like stuff, which is a weird thing to say, but there it is. It's the heroine's journey. That's true. Someone like this need for me to give happy endings and connection and stuff. I don't know. I feel like, especially as so many readers are introverts, a lot of us struggle with human connection. And so I kind of want to like guide the way as well, sort of here's kind of how to build a community, how to be supportive of your friends, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. Are we getting a bit twee? Maybe. It's okay. I am a little twee. It's part of who I am. I'm a little cheesy, everybody. All right. No other questions coming in at the moment. So I'm going to take a break and sip some tea. 3:30. We're halfway through already. Gossip session. So this kimchi, back to kimchi. Oh, finally reading the heroine's journey, says Roger. Well, that's exciting. It's also fun and positive, and I think, even though it's a nonfiction, I tried to write it as kind of friendly as I could, as easy to read and fun as I could, because nonfiction is so dry. And one of the reasons I sort of gave up on academia was how dry I was forced to be when I was writing academic papers in order to be taken seriously. I mean, obviously, I could write them better, but in order for them to be taken seriously, for like white papers or grant proposals or whatever, I had to be all dry, and I really didn't like it. Alexandra says that they love so much about my books. Thank you so much. Oh my God, Rivers read the heroine's journey 6 times. That's amazing. Um, wow. Hey, Patrick. Yeah, we got a lot of chatter happening in both places now. That's pretty exciting. Although I have to say, I think YouTube is slightly chattier than Facebook because there are fewer of you, but there's almost as many comments. Jesse asked if I read. Oh, that's a good question, and this is a good question for everyone else as well. Oh, we got a bunch of questions. Hold on, I'm scrolling backwards. The question that I caught briefly, I'll come back to Jocelyn in a second, but the question that I caught briefly was, do I read like poetry or plays, or I guess sort of the other oeuvre of fictional writing? And the answer to that is not often. Poetry, I'm afraid I have a little bit of a, how do I put this? Like phobia of it, even especially spoken word. I used to be fine with it, but like dealing with my dad and the beat stuff all wrapped up with him has kind of like made me have some emotional problems around poetry. I don't know how else to put it. I do love it. I mean, I do love some of it. My dad was a huge fan of Blake, for example, and sometimes that, or Keats. But even somebody like Wordsworth, I know for me there's a difference between sort of the modern oeuvre of poetry and like the romantics, or even as far back as say Shakespearean poetry, which I feel like I can consume and read in a way that like activates the intellectual side of my brain a little bit differently, and therefore I can get some distance from it. Whereas more modern poetry occasionally is almost too much or something. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah, but it isn't something I ever go to for like comfort or anything. It is something that's work for me. I think most of those are plays or what have you. I think it's because I just associated in my brain with school, I guess. Can't and my father and other things. Jocelyn asks, what's a go-to piece of fiction when I need escape? This is a fun question. I've talked about this a little bit in like blog posts and stuff. For me, it's kind of odd what I'll go to. I really like complicated political, like messy dramas, specifically like high fantasy or space opera. So two of the ones that spring to mind just right now are Feast and Worst's Mistress of the Empire, Daughter of the Empire, Servant of the Empire trilogy, which it's an older trilogy that's but it's just very political machinations, and it's like, for me, that's like a real escapism sort of thing. It's also kind of like an alternate Japan Asian country, and so it has this, and then they have like these sort of alien bug creatures that are involved and they're at war. It's the other side of the Rift War, for those of you who've read that series. And I don't know, there's something about that trilogy that always takes me out. And then another one I really love is the Kushiel's Dart series, the original one. In fact, I've been thinking recently about whether I want to reread that one because, yeah. And then there's a couple of like space opera ones that I will occasionally pick up and reread. Like There's Not a Reason Why. That is not right now. That's a sad series, but sometimes you need a good cry, and I'll pick that one up, but for not right now. So yeah, it's been Kushiel's Dart that actually I've been thinking about whether I want to reread that one. It was Jesse asked about poetry, plays, etc. TK asks, if an immortal goes through the bite during menopause, do those symptoms stay forever? Oh my goodness, I sure hope not. That'd be awful. It's my world, so no. I could, I could make up the rules of the universe. No, they don't. So there. Other questions. TK is off. Our bot has left the building, although I think Dick is still around. Daughter of the Empire is part of a series? Yes, it is. Daughter of the Empire, Servant of the Empire, and Mistress of the Empire. And it is a great series. The whole thing comes together really well. It has a happy ending, and it's very good. Read the series, and they all have those super intricate and interesting covers. Melody asks a great question. Do I watch Eurovision? Or am I mostly a K-pop for splashy music? There's something about Eurovision. I do love the way Tumblr in particular, but also other parts of the internet go gaga when Eurovision is on. I was like, the gays are out in force. Let's sit back and just watch that fabulous action. But I don't get as into it as some do, shall we say. Yeah, I'm more K-pop. Generally speaking, if there's a K-pop competition show on, I'm probably watching it if it's not on Netflix. And yeah. Um, oh, Elizabeth said that they read the Cushiel series because of me. Oh my God. I hope I didn't lead you astray. It's not exactly like my stuff. But if you do want like chewy politics, it's great. I also say people, I've said this before, I'm saying it again. People underestimate how good she is at writing battle sequences as well, especially in like the back end of the last book. The way she can make her battles both seem like big and massive and narrow in on the like individual components and the characters involved in the battle, it's really dexterous. Like I admire her writing, like her battle writing a lot. And I think she never gets enough credit for that. Yes, Robin, reread Daughter of the Empire and then read the other two, but put aside a long period of time because those are some beefy books. Those are some long books. River says that Etiquette and Espionage is their comfort book. Yay! This is my favorite thing, I have to say, that that people comfort read me. Weirdly, because I normally am not like this, I have been thinking about comfort reading my own book, and that or I was thinking of rereading the Tinker's Star Song trilogy recently. I was like, I need escapism, and I want it to be sci-fi. I was like, maybe I have to just reread my own stuff, which I never do that normally. So that was pretty funny. Jesse asks if I like fantasy retellings. Sometimes I like gender swapped or queered up fantasy retellings or fairy tale retellings and stuff. That I like it if there's something interesting. It's really been retold in an interesting way, like a space opera version or something. Yeah, I like it. I guess I like it if the author is being clever. I'm like, "Ooh, where are we going with this?" So yeah, sometimes I wouldn't say it's like one of my top tropes that I read for, but I'm not averse to it. I don't object to a retelling. I like it. I do like it when there's in a Star, what's her last name? Inani, I think, does a really interesting retelling of the Goose Girl, which I've talked about it before. I'm sorry, this was a long pull for me to make on this Saturday afternoon. I didn't think about reaching for that. Yeah, Jocelyn says Murderbot, and I think a lot of people have Murderbot as one of their comfort reads. And I hear that the show is pretty good too. At least I heard on NPR reviews the show was great. So yeah, if you need to disassociate, go for it, Robin. Read whatever will take you out. Especially for vacation, man. Well, that's another good question for you and for me. What's like a vacation read? Like, do you go for? I mean, a lot of us here are sci-fi fantasy people. Do you go for like an epic fantasy political thing that's like truly chewy and escapist when you're like hanging out on a beach, or do you prefer like a lighter fare, like like a rom-com romance or something? It really depends on my mood. The older I get, the more I realize I'm really a mood reader. But in the past, most of the time, I am actually one of those people who likes to take like a big old honkin' epic fantasy to the beach with me, and I'll be like sitting in the shade because I am one of those people who like goes to the beach and then sits in the shade and drinks a drink and stares at the water and then goes into the water and then runs back into the shade. But when I'm reading, I usually tend to be reading something like wildly epic and vast and stuff. I don't really take like beach reads to the beach. I don't know why. I just don't. No shade if that's what you do, but yeah. Julia says, "What an amusing idea for the aliens in the Tinker Star Song series to be watching Eurovision." Yeah, I think that would be hilarious. I did. So when I was researching for Tinker Star Song, I did watch like some older Eurovision, and I was thinking about that in part and that side of competition. I was also doing, K-pop and other Asian uh, countries versions of singing competitions, for the first book especially. You know me, I have to do like a ton of research into all sorts of strange things. Oh, For Whom the Bell Tolls, what a comfort book. That's yeah, I don't know. Maybe I might comfort read, say, like Pride and Prejudice or something like that, but there's very little of the like literature, like hardcore literature that I would um, necessarily call a comfort read for me. Anyway, Rama wants to know if I read Assistant to the Villain. I have not. Is that a new Winters book? It sounds like it might be. It sounds good, but no, I haven't read it. That sounds fun though. No sorries in the chat. It's all good. If I've answered it already, people come and go all the time, so I'm happy to talk about it again. But oh, Roger wants to know if I've ever toyed with narrating my own audiobooks. So if you are a member of the newsletter, the Chirrup, then you have the option of listening to me read Vixen Ecology, which is a short story, out loud. And that is, to date, the only thing I've narrated. I, in fact, I occasionally participate in San Francisco. I was there recently for SF and SF, and I did read from the first chapter of this book, and it's not great, you guys. I'm not a great reader. I sound like this all the time. So if I read my English stuff, I'm not English enough for it. I understand that people like to hear something in your own voice. And I think if I did narrate anything, it would be nonfiction because that's the most my own voice. This is how I used to teach. So what is nonfiction but a form of teaching? I didn't mind reading San Andreas because again, it's set in the United States. But yeah, the font is too small, you guys. I really need to get my eyes checked. I need to up the prescription on my glasses because it was in a dark, like the venue is this sort of comedy club sort of thing. The lights were dim. I was squinting. It was rough time, but I did manage to read it. I did not make those mistakes when I was reading Vixen Ecology out loud. But if you want to hear me basically narrate, then you can listen to Vixen Ecology via the Chirrup. It's part of the signing up process. You'll get the option. It's also here on the YouTube channel, so you can find it if you're very tricksy, or you just email me and I'll send you a link. But anyway, yeah, I don't think I'm very good at it. Is why I don't narrate my own audiobooks. In my traditional publishing contracts, it was there that I would have to narrate them if they wanted me to do it. But thank heavens they didn't want me to do it. They got proper narrators, people whose job it is to read audiobooks and do accents and things. I'm just not very good at it. This is way more my speed where we just chat and I don't have to like try to put on a performance. I don't love the performance aspect of it, trying to do the different accents and character voices and stuff. I'm making humming noises while I'm scrolling through comments. Oh, Hannah Nicole Mather. Oh, Assistant to the Villain. You know what so Robin is describing what Assistant to the Villain sounds like. And you know what it reminds me a little bit of is that TJ Klune book, Lightning Struck Heart, which is also like incredibly funny, like gets sucked into. And then Anna Winters, I think her name is Anna Winter or Winters, has a really funny series of like superheroes, but like accidental villain type characters. They're quite hilarious. Oh, Piper says I have a wonderful voice. Thank you, sweetie. Wait, what are you doing awake? Yeah, I don't think I have a very good voice. I really struggle to like listen to myself after things and stuff. So thank you for saying that, but I don't like my own voice very much. I think that's not uncommon. It is another fear when I read my own stuff out loud is that I would just find mistakes and get annoyed with myself as I'm doing the narration. So yeah. Someone says they're rereading Song of Albion series by Stephen Law. I think I've heard of that. Um, oh, okay. So River says for whom the bell, oh, bell tolls, Belle. I see what's going on there with that by Jessalyn. That is not what I was thinking it was. Yes, that it sounds like a funny reread. I never mind laughing. Funny books are always welcome. It's hard. It's hard to find books that like genuinely make you laugh, which is one of the reasons that for me, Clune's Lightning Struck Heart always comes to mind because when I read that book, I was laughing so hard. I had a box of tissues because I was crying because I was laughing so hard. So I always recommend that book if you really want escapism and hilarity. The Lightning Struck Heart. Do not be turned off by the absolutely atrocious cover art. Just read the book anyway. It's very, very funny. It's basically like a sort of Terry Pratchett fantasy-esque, but it's not Pratchett's style humor. It's a completely different kind of humor, but it's still truly hilarious. Mm. Julia asks if I listen or read a draft aloud when I'm editing. And the answer is yes, I do. It's one of like back in the day when I was giving writing advice, when I did that, but also back in the day. You guys have been doing this a really long time now, but 10 years ago or whatever, I used to say reading your stuff out loud is one of my major hacks, especially if you can't afford an editor. But I think most authors should at least try to read their stuff out loud to the empty room. You just catch so many mistakes. And the mistakes you catch tend to be like mistakes in your own voice, the sort of sing-song nature. Sometimes you want to lean into that as a writer, and sometimes you want to break it so that you get your audience's attention. You never really catch what's going on unless you actually do the audio out loud. So I recommend it highly. I think so. I was raised with no television, but with audiobooks. Again, for those who haven't heard me tell this story a million times, and it means I always think all of my books in particular are kind of designed for audiobook because that was a lot of the early stories I consumed was through audio. And so now as a writer, when I write, I think I spit out for audio. That's kind of, and so for me, an audio pass is really important doing that readout. I also will have the computer read it to me. And that's more to catch like typos and stuff like that because I won't see them. I'm a terrible speller. I'm terrible at catching my own typos. And so to get the computer to read it to me means that more stuff is caught. So yeah, so I do both. Especially if I have the time, I will read it and I will have them read it. And then if I'm on a writing retreat where we have proof of rights, then I'm also reading some sections out loud to other people. And as a humor author, that's really helpful because I will get to hear whether people find what I think is funny. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they find other stuff which I didn't intend to be funny, and that's also nice. So I do love reading out loud, yeah. But weirdly, I don't like reading for other readings. Oh, Jesse asks, that is such a good question. Jesse asks, what's the one word you have to let autocorrect fix every time you write? And oh my God. Yes, this happens to me. I have many words. I can tell you refrigerator. I cannot spell the word refrigerator. I will never be able to spell it. Probably is another word that I cannot spell. Someone has to spell that for me. I cannot remember, but there are a lot of those like serendipities. There's a lot of words out there that have double consonants and then vowels that I in my brain see as different vowels. And so I think part of this is I have a pretty minor dyslexia. And it means that when I read, and I've done this my whole life, I read as pattern recognition. So for some people with dyslexia, the way you read is you read the first letter and then you look for the shape of the rest of the words, whether it goes low or high or whatever, and then the last letter, and then you put it together. So probably for me is a P and an R. And then there's the B that goes upright in the middle, and there's a Y at the end. But the middle bit, I'm like, I just never learned how to spell it, right? But I recognize probably whenever I see it because it's this shape. It has a specific shape on the page. But I can't spell it, so autocorrect has to do it for me. And then there's, like, the added benefit of, dictating with autocorrect when you're most of the time, it's okay, but I talk relatively fast, right? And also occasionally I have, like, Britishisms that snuck in because I was raised by my mother. And, yeah, and so I'll dictate occasionally, and the dictation will just be like, "We don't know what you said," and I'll be like, "I don't remember what I said either," so everyone's confused about this situation. Um, Scrolling to see if we have other questions. Yeah, that one word. I know there's a few other words that I always have to have autocorrect do, but autocorrect has been such a part of my existence for so long that, yeah, my adopted niece, I guess she is, one of my best friend's kids, um, has had a contretemps with a teacher that is she is a terrible speller because she is dyslexic, and I'm like, "Well, you tell her her Aunt Gail has never didn't hold me back being unable to spell, and that's mostly because of autocorrect. So much as I hate it, it's also quite the crutch at this point. Gotta get the last of my caffeinated beverage in before 4 o'clock, or I won't sleep tonight. Ah, that's what dyslexia I can comprehend, but I can't read very well. Yes, exactly. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. I always say that like my reading comprehension was fine, but yeah, my but only if there were enough words that I had the correct pattern recognition for, like because occasionally some longer words especially will masquerade as each other. It's a good thing that on most like standardized tests and stuff, they actually have relatively limited vocabulary. Um, but yeah, oh, sorry. I'm sure there are other words, but the probably is man, it's the worst. To the point where because the people I text, they all know like which things I misspell the most because I have autocorrect turned off on my phone because it messes up too much. Um and I'm scared of it. So I'm very technologically phobic, everybody. I tend to break technology a lot. I don't know. I don't know why. I used to joke that I had like a field that like broke mechanical technology anytime I walked into a room. So I was off excavating in Peru at one point, and I came home and I literally walked in the door and put my suitcase down. And on the other side of the room, the DVD player did that little puff of bluish smoke and that smell of burning electrics. And I had just entered the room and my partner at the time was like, "Welcome home, honey." And I was like, "I'm back. We'll break all your technology just by looking at it." So, yeah, so I'm always like scared of newfangled technology. Lashana says technology breaks breaks their patience. That's so funny. Yes, I'm also very easily frustrated by technology, which is not good because I'm supposed to fix it for like my mom, and I'm like, it's not my ballywick. I know I'm supposed to be good at it, but I'm not. Um, ooh, Jesse asks whether the texture of book paper factors into your printing choices. Again, a very interesting question. I'm getting some questions I've never had before on this particular one. Yes, it does. So I don't know if you guys know this, but when I'm printing for this is just a large print edition, but when I'm printing for indie, we are given the option for our interior pages to be either cream or white. Um, and cream is a little for black and white print. Cream is a little kinder on the eyes, so that's one reason to pick it. But I actually think the cream in general has a slightly more pleasant texture to the hand than the white. The white tends to be a little bit smoother. And then on the other hand, we have matte versus glossy cover. So this is glossy and this is matte. I actually like the feel of glossy slightly better. But not a lot of my books are printed in glossy, and that's because matte doesn't show like finger marks as much, and also it shows up better on camera. So that's like my own personal choice, everybody. But like my sci-fi series and my San Andreas series are glossy, and then anything in the Parasol verse is matte. And that's also partly because my publishing house produced all of the trade paperbacks for the Parasol verse in matte. And so in order to make the books kind of match the traditional published stuff, I use the same style of cover. But it, to some people who have sensory concerns, the matte does kind of have a slightly sort of soapy feel, or I don't know how else to describe it. I don't mind it. I like glossy better personally, but it does this reflective thing, which is very annoying when one is online, like me. So that's one of the reasons. I know it's very self-serving, but they're my books. I get to do what I want. But those are some of the reasons why I've chosen. But I always try to do cream interior. A, because it's easier on people's eyes, and B, because I do like the texture of the cream slightly more than the white. It does depend on the printing press. So even books that are the same to you guys, there's some, like, so if you ordered this book off of Amazon, there are actually like 3 or 4 different printing presses that it could be printed at, and within those 4 different printing presses there are subtle differences. So it's not always the case, but in general I've found that for interior the white is just a little bit smoother, and I don't like it as much. I know, sensory stuff. I do think about these things. Um, I know I put possibly too much thought. Some of my fellow authors are like, "Gail, what are you doing?" And I was like, I know. I get obsessed by tiny details. So, oh, interesting. Yeah, but so Julia says that that she's heard complaints that cream paper looks self-published versus white paper, but my traditionally published trade paperbacks are all also on cream paper. So I just, yeah, that's why I do it. I think maybe it was out of Ingram. One of the printing presses also, it seemed like the white was thinner than the cream. And so I'm always nervous of the print showing through on the opposite side. And I felt like with cream paper, there's less of a risk of that happening. So that's another reason that I do cream, is it feels just a tiny bit thicker to me. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll do a white print run on one of my next experimental books, just to see what it's like. One of my secret projects will have to be on white, so we'll get to experience that together, everybody, for secret reasons, because it's a secret project, but it's going to happen hopefully this year. So yeah, it's interesting, the sensory aspect of books. I figure if you are somebody who specifically chooses to read the book because it is print, then part of the experience of that book is interacting with the object. So the book is both the experience from immersing yourself in the fictional universe, but also an experience from handling it as an object, which is, why I keep working with Subterranean with like these books, because the object of them is also so satisfying. I don't mean to cause sensory issues rubbing my fabric cover, but there's just something about the sort of textural nature that's also so satisfying in these kinds of books. It looks like Subterranean also uses cream paper, it looks like, for their fancy high-end ones. Speaking of which, I just signed, so we've had a snafu with the printer, which, shocking given the situation with tariffs and that sort of stuff right now. So it's still happening, don't worry, but I've had to re-sign some of the Tiptons because the special editions are always all signed. So I've just signed them and I'm sending them back. So it's still happening. Fingers and toes all crossed. But yeah, I trust Subterranean implicitly. So I mean, I've worked with them multiple times before. So the book will happen. It's just slightly delayed. That's why we're making no promises on a delivery date, because Publishing's crazy right now, everybody. It's crazy. The world is crazy right now. So there it is. But that's not why you showed up. You showed up to have conversations about tea and bubble tea and some book nitty gritty. And it is 4, so I think we will wind this all down. I'm very excited by my setup, so all praise me for figuring out how to do 2 live streams at the same time. I'm really proud of myself. I've I figured it out for next time. So I don't know whether we'll be doing one in July, but we might. Keep an eye to the Chirrup and the social, and I'll let you know if that's going to happen. But thank you all for taking some time out of your Saturday to say, or Sunday if you're down under, to say hi to me and tune in and chat and bring your questions. I've loved it. It's always such a pleasure. And I hope to see some of you next time, or some of you in person, or whatever. Have a lovely rest of the weekend, everybody, and have a tasty beverage on me, and eat something good for me. Something tasty. Tell me about it. Bye.